Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Primal Hunter by Zogarth. This is a light RPG adventure. This is the first of this genre that I have read. I've never read any kind of RPG or gaming kind of book before, so it was a brand new experience for me. I am an avid gamer. I play all the time. It gave me a lot of feelings and like the urge to play, we'll say like Skyrim or The Witcher. It made me want to go on a grand adventure. Our main male lead, his name is Jake. There is no female lead. There's only Jake, okay? Which is nice. You follow Jake. He's a regular office worker. To me, I'm kind of confused whether he's in his late 20s or he's in his early 30s, but he's around that age. Now, he wanted to be a professional archer, but he got into an accident, and because he got into that accident, he basically had to just finish college and get an office job, which happens to a lot of people. It's pretty common. Not the archer thing, but just having to have an office job. Jake is in the elevator with several of his coworkers when all of a sudden everything goes black, and he appears in this gaming system, which makes him pick a class. He can be a mage, a wizard, a warrior, a healer, or he can be an archer. Naturally, he picks an archer because this is something he's already proficient in. He already knows how to do it. This is what he wants to be. And he can already kind of tell right away that this is some sort of gaming system. Like he's not ignorant to the fact of what it is. He just kind of recognizes what it is, goes along with the flow, picks the class that he thinks is best going to suit him. And when he wakes up, he's on this giant cement platform along with 11, 12 of his other coworkers. I might be getting the number wrong, but it's somewhere around there. And as they all look at each other and they start to talk, the platform starts to descend. Now, Caroline is on this platform, which is a girl he's kind of had a crush on. She's just like the office hottie or the cute girl in the office. There is Jacob, who happens to be basically his best friend, or at least a really good friend of his. So there are people on his platform that he knows. He recognizes some of his coworkers. Caroline picks a healer. Jacob is some sort of light warrior. There's a kid named Casper who's another archer. There's some other ones who are just like the heavy warriors. So there's like a mixture of different classes, and they all descend to the ground. They get notified that this is the tutorial part of the game. So this is where they're supposed to be doing all their learning, and they have to like level up to get an upgrade to not advance, morph, change. Anyway, once you get to like level 25, you ascend to a certain degree. Ascend's not the right word, but you upgrade at like 25 and 30 and 10, okay? I know I'm explaining this terribly, I'm sorry. At the beginning of the book, there's 1,200 people who get dropped into this tutorial. They are all on the ground. They go off to start getting tutorial points, to start leveling up, to find a home base, somewhere to stay the night. They run into animals, wild boars, and immediately one of the women gets part or most of her leg like ripped off. So she has to use a stick as a stump and kind of hobble along. They are given healing potions and I think mana potions. They are given like 6 bottles, like 3 healing, 3 mana, and that is supposed to help get them along. The healing potions doesn't actually help her regrow her leg, which I am somewhat confused on, because later in the book, our main male character, Jake, is able to regrow his arm using a healing potion, but I'm not for sure if that's because at his point, when that happens, he has such a high level of health points that he is able to and it's okay. And if because it's at the beginning of the book and she's like basically a level 1, she doesn't have enough health points to do that. So I'm not sure on that part, but you know, whatever. It isn't long after Jake's coworker, her leg gets ripped off by the boar, that they get attacked in the middle of the night by a group of guys who are coming to kill them. Because if you kill people in the tutorial, you get their points along with the points that it took to kill them. So it's almost like you get double the tutorial points awarded to you. So there are people in the game who are just trying to hunt people because it's easier, and then they get all their points as well. So there is a group of them that come in the middle of the night, and Jake ends up killing them all. And he is really rather elated that he was able to kill everybody. Like serial killer elated, which is fine. I love serial killers. And I guess I could kind of understand that with all the adrenaline going through your body and that life and death situation, I guess I could kind of understand how Jake would be over the moon in a sense that he was the victor. Now, I don't think most people would have that reaction for killing someone for the first time ever in their life. And part of that does kind of come up later because Jake almost has this switch where he's totally fine with killing people, but then later in the book he makes a comment saying he would rather not kill people if he didn't have to. So Jake's not running around killing everybody he sees. He is only killing people who try to harm him. And that's something you maybe should take note of, is that he is not a serial killer and he's not a crazy person. He just is trying to keep himself alive, and he's able to numb himself to a degree that when someone is coming to hurt him, he just has to do what he has to do, and he likes the thrill of a challenge. After the ambush happens, Jake and his group end up meeting a much bigger clan, and they are being led by a guy named Richard. Richard doesn't really care who comes with him, but he basically is like, I want Caroline, because she's a healer and our other healer died the other day. I don't care what anyone else does, but I'm gonna take her, preferably like willingly. Otherwise I'll take her unwillingly, because we have to have a healer. Jake basically tells his whole group, like, you'll be safer if you're with this giant group of people. I'm gonna go on my own. He does this because he notices how people are staring, reacting, talking to him differently after he killed all those guys in the middle of the night. Again, he did it to protect them, but they were all just like, all of his coworkers are looking at him like he's a monster now or a crazy serial killer. So he decides that the best thing to do is to go out on his own, that these people are holding him back, right? So he leaves them all behind, and then he goes off and he starts his epic adventure. Also, somewhat early on, he is able to unlock the fact that he has the bloodline of the Primal Hunter, which is a very unique bloodline. Not many or any people have it. He's like the first of his line to have the Primal Hunter. So that is rather unique, and along with that comes a bunch of different skills and abilities that are only available to him. So you do, or at least I thought going in, that he was kind of just going to be like this OP character or player, but that's not quite how it happens. And I do think that might be why the author ended up putting him in the dungeon for so long, was because he had this OP bloodline right off the bat, but then he was kind of dormant and working on like chemistry and stuff, or alchemy, in the cave for so long that it allowed our antagonist to level up and become just as powerful as him. So that kind of helped a little bit, because I think if Jake didn't go into the dungeon and he just ended up staying out in the tutorial for that whole month, he probably would have been like an insanely high level by the end of the tutorial, instead of being somewhat close to the same level as the other people that dropped into the tutorial with him. Will is the antagonist. Will is a 19-year-old boy. I'm pretty sure he's 19. He's a younger kid. It's around 19 years old. But it talks about some of the stuff that he did before he got into the tutorial. And I will say, like, Will is certifiably crazy. He's a really good antagonist. You read his part and his perspective, and you're just like, this guy is nuts. The stuff he's doing is nuts. The stuff he thinks is nuts. Like, he's just crazy. So he fit into the antagonist role really well. And his fighting abilities later on are really cool. Listening, because I listened on the audiobook, so listening to how he can do his attacks are very stealthy, but also unique, because it's not like something you would see in most video games. It's unique to his character, which I really enjoyed reading. As people advance and they start getting more levels, they can get a different kind of profession. Like, you could be a smithy, a jeweler, a builder, a leader. As you upgrade, you can also open skills. So just for an example, if you're level 5 and you upgrade to a level 6, maybe magical arrows or piercing arrows can be released, and you can unlock that and use that as a skill. In this game, usually they give you 3 to 5 different skills you can actually pick from, and Jake will sit there and he'll go through all of those possible skills before making a decision. This game also has dungeons and loot boxes, so people can climb trees or just explore the woods, and they will find these unmarked boxes, and inside of them is mostly jewelry or clothing of some kind that have some sort of special ability. Like, for example, one could be a ring and it will have plus 10 agility, plus 10 health, and plus 10 mana. Or it could be a pair of pants with plus 10 stealth. These are just examples. These are not actual like things right in the book. I'm just trying to give like the best examples as I can to the objects within the story. There are 2 dungeons that are in the first book, and Jake spends a month in one of the dungeons. This part of the story I wouldn't necessarily pin as dull, because there is still stuff going on within the book. So even though Jake is stuck in the dungeon and he's trying to figure out his own thing, the author will send or change the point of view to other people in the book. So it'll go to Jacob and it'll talk about stuff going on with Jacob, and it will go to Will, who is the antagonist in this story, and it'll talk about Will's perspective and what's going on with Will. So even though our main male character is doing something that's kind of like, you know, meh, the author does at least a good job at switching the point of view to somebody else who's doing something more interesting in the in-between time. For the monsters and animals, there's the normal stuff like deers, badgers, and boars, but they also have it where it's like an alpha boar, which has poisonous tusks. Every 10 levels, there's something added on to it, some sort of advantage that they have. So if it is, we'll say like a level 10 badger, maybe it'll have like a screeching effect that when it screeches, you get disoriented. Or if it's a level 20, maybe it's going to have screeching, but then it's also going to have poisonous spikes that shoot out of its body. It did introduce raptors in part of it too, but I think raptors are a part of another section of the multiverse in the gaming system, because where they are in the tutorial, Jake gets out of temporarily, and while he's there, he's battling basically dinosaurs. So that's in another part where Jake went. So I think that's going to be more, the dinosaurs are going to show probably more in the second book in the series. The other thing I like is the politics within the book, because you have the politics within the one group, and then you have the politics of the tutorial, because there's another group out there that has like their own clan. There are several other smaller groups dispersed across the tutorial as well. So it talks about just how they're trying to either get along with other people, how they're trying to merge groups together, how they're trying to get rid of the other groups, and it talks about that their survivability and how they're trying to progress forward through the tutorial. There are also several different gods in here. Jake meets his own god. One of the smithies meets his own god. Casper meets a god. Jacob meets a god. So there is not just one god. There is like a benevolent god who wants everyone to be happy and lovey. Jake's god is like the great serpent who kind of creates destruction and mayhem, or that's what he was known for. I did like this book. The only thing I didn't like in this book was how it ended. And it's not the writing skills, it's not how it ended, it's where it ended. Because this is a 700-page book, it's 20 hours for the audiobook, and by the end of it, he is still in the tutorial, which was rather crazy to me. I figured he would be done with the tutorial at that point, and he wasn't. So that's the only downfall I found, is that he was still in the tutorial and he didn't progress any farther to the next level of the story. Aside from that, I liked the story. I liked the monsters in there. I wish there was more, like a more diverse amount to them. However, I do think that once the tutorial part is over and they go out to the next stage or the next part of the world, there will be dinosaurs and other big creatures, dragons, what are those things called? Hydras, whatever. I think there's going to be more stuff the further out he gets to explore into the actual gaming world. I didn't dislike any characters. They all have their own part to play, and the way that they are written fills that part. So even if I don't like Will because of what he stands for or his behavior, I like how Will is written in the story, because he is written as a bad person, right, as an antagonist, but he's written well in that regard. Just like Jake is pretty OP, right? I like his mental dialogue that he has with himself. I like how he interacts when he interacts with the god once he gets to that point. I like how he calls people on their bullshit. And I like how he just kind of lets himself be free, because normally in the beginning he is the shy office worker who is just in himself and doesn't want to make waves, but very quickly he just realizes how serious the situation is and is basically like, F you guys, like, we need to get tutorial points, we need to be killing animals, we need to level up. Like, if we stay low levels and just like hide in a cave the whole time, we're gonna die. Like, this isn't safe. So I like how at least Jake is not a pushover. Like, even if he was in the real world, he is not in this world, because he knows that this is an actual life and death situation and he wants to live. In general, I think that this was a great book for me to start off in the RPG or light RPG kind of realm. So in general, I would recommend this book to other people. So Sorry that this is such a long review. It is a long book, so there's a lot of things that I wanted to just even touch base on to give it justice. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.